I am Kat, and I am a coach here at the Fit Father Project, and I am so excited for you to be listening today. Today's topic is to talk with members who've had over 100 pounds of weight loss on the program. And we have some wonderful questions that have come in from members, and they are going to open up and share their stories with us. Do want to let you know that all three of these members have their own podcast, and we will link those below so that you can go listen to their full story too. So let's just jump right in and start with Tom. Can you give us a little bit of your background and your story?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Tom Dash. I live in Colorado. I have been working the program since January of 2022. And I have currently I started at 402 pounds, and I am pretty excited to be here. Should be a good conversation. I'm 43. I
Wonderful.
don't know if I said that.
Wonderful. Okay, we will move right along to Steve.
I'm Steve Alexander. I live in Keene, New Hampshire. I started with the program in July, I want to say 2021. And when I started the program, I was 390 pounds. And the program's been, a godsend for me. So.
And how much do you weigh right now, Steve? How much have you
So
lost?
right now, I actually weigh 220 pounds. I actually got down to 185 pounds mid last year. Then I had some setbacks due to some medical conditions. So, yep.
Fantastic. Okay, and last but not least, we have Werner. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Werner. I'm 54 years young, and I live with my family in Switzerland, Europe. And with the Fit Father program, I lost 101 pounds in just a year. And with that, I changed from like XXL shirts to like M size, from 38-inch to 30-inch pants. And I reduced my body fat from close to 40% down all the way down to 10%. So for me, FFP is a game changer.
It's incredible. In a year, in 1 year.
In a year, yeah.
New.
Even a little bit less.
Wow. Okay. Well, here we go. We have the three experts. Let's talk about it. One of the first questions that came in from multiple members is, how do you handle walking into this journey when you know the end goal? Like, it's so big, right? It's this big goal. It's not, I need to lose 30 pounds. I can do that in a couple months. How did you mentally handle that? And I'll start with Tom again to kind of jump into this.
So, I had worked the program a little bit in like 2019 and had some success losing some weight. And then COVID happened and everything along those lines, and hadn't really firmed up my why as far as that goes, and wasn't truly like all in. And then obviously just focused on lockdown and family and things like that. And weight went back up. And then when I was coming in this, I basically told my family, kind of visualized, that this was winning, that I knew that there was an option for me, that I had seen some results originally from trying it. And I had seen the people on the Facebook, and what success they had. And so I believed in the program, and I think believing in it and believing that I could do it after seeing some results was important. And then also just defining my why and kind of making sure that, wanting to do it for the family.
And let's talk a little bit more about that. Steve, I know you have some great resources and knowledge on kind of defining your why. So how did you do that with your journey?
So for me, I did the mission statement as I redid it again. I didn't rely on what I had done in 19, and kind of rewrote it down and kind of did some praying and just like some quiet time and kind of sat with it. And really, there were things that I wasn't able to do as a dad, and we weren't able to do as a family. And so those were like the big whys, as well as just wanting to feel better, right? Like I was in a lot of pain, tired, and didn't have the energy to do things I wanted to do.
Yeah. So Steve, would you like to kind of touch on this, how you worked with this, with your why and setting that big
Sure.
goal?
Yeah. So initially when I started the program, I followed all the steps, and really did some self-reflection about what was important for me, which was family. It was during COVID, so obviously, being an overweight man was one of the higher risk factors, and I didn't want to be that. So when I looked at all that stuff, it took about a week and really did a self-reflection, and then I developed, the whys, and I actually created some visuals that I spread around the house that would remind me, so pictures of my kids and things like that, and some things that I wanted to do, to help me get it. The other thing I didn't do, or I did do and didn't do, I didn't say I want to lose 200 pounds. That wasn't this. That's never been my goal. My goal has been I wanted to be more active. I wanted to be there for my family, and so initially, honestly, when I set my first weight loss goal, it was only 15 pounds. I got astounded within the first 30 days, I had lost about 30 pounds. It was just
Wow.
something, it was something crazy in a weight loss setting.
Mhm.
Again, and that was, I was focused because of my why and followed the program and everything to the T, and it worked.
I mean, what a wonderful idea to have the pictures up and that motivation just everywhere, right? Just covering yourself in that and bringing it in. That's fantastic. That's a great idea. Werner, how did you start your kind of why and get that motivation going?
Yeah, for me, my big why is my son, which is now 7, was then 6. Oh, yeah, 6. And I just want to be around for him, and my health was really on a bad place. And I had this deep wish to be around for him, to raise him, that he can grow up and become a man. And actually, I planned from the beginning to lose 100 weight. Um, yeah, then of course you set milestones. I think my first one was like 250, I think, just by the number. And then a big one was 220, because they got me out of obesity, and then things rapidly changed. And then the next one was pretty much 200, because then you're getting really into the area where you become lean. And yeah, that drove my story. And but what was interesting in the beginning, I was very insecure about it. So I was really like, oh, can I even do that? Is that even possible?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm so excited that Stephen is here, because that gives me the opportunity to thank him. If you remember, Steve, we were in the same Delta group, I think it was called. And man, I saw your journey and I was so impressed. I was like, how is that even possible? And you were such a huge inspiration for me. And I need to thank you, because you made me believe that this perhaps even would work for me. So thank you, Stephen, for your inspiration and leadership.
Yeah, I'm almost speechless. I appreciate that. That is, that's huge. And honestly, Werner, when I started, I had almost convinced myself I'd never be below 300 pounds again. And it's just, it's amazing what you convince yourself that you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
This journey is about your mind as much as it is your physical body.
Mhm.
I think, that's the key thing. And I remember when you came on board, the interactions that you would have, and you'd ask good questions and stuff. And I'm not a huge Facebook person, but in the end, the Facebook group is huge.
Huge. I
Yeah,
agree. It was absolutely a success factor for, I think, for all of us, I guess.
absolutely. And okay, so let's talk about the mind piece a little bit. So there's the meal plan and there's the workouts, and we know they're there. But how did you kind of prepare your mind? Like, was there different steps along your journey of having to change that? Or was it just like you were good to go from the beginning? Kind of how did that journey work?
So from my standpoint, I wasn't good to go to start. Again, part of it is, getting yourself trained to do the right things, setting yourself up for success, and then also reflecting. When I first started this, I'd start the morning with this morning reflection. What I'm trying to achieve, what I'm doing, why. And at the end of the day, before I went to bed, as part of my routine, I would do an evening reflection, and sometimes, including some spiritual stuff. Just again, trying to focus. I'm not sure that Tom and Mueller would do the same things, but that's what worked for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think mindset is really key. And to set a mind, you need to work on it. And I think to have a daily routine that keeps you going, where you reflect where you are and what went wrong and where is the potential, and also connect with the brotherhood and just be all the time in that project and in that really correct mindset. And you learn all the time. I mean, I had a hard time in the beginning with the workouts, for example. I was so sore. I mean, that was just impossible. But then it was setting that mind in the right direction. Brotherhood was a huge help for me.
Interesting. Like, so Tom, you had kind of started, right? And a few years ago and fell off and then came back. What was it? Was there a difference with your mindset between those two starts?
Yeah, I think I could truly see it this time, right? Like I was just like, this program is going to work for me. Like I know that this is a program that can be successful for people. As Werner was thanking Steve, Werner was kind of going through his massive loss, kind of right around when I was lurking and getting rejoining, and so I kind of had similar impacts from people that were just doing it, right? Like you could see the results, and I think that's why, I wouldn't post a shirtless picture just out in the world, when I was 400 pounds. I wouldn't post a picture of what I'm at right now just into the world, but
Mhm.
in this program, I was willing to do that, right? And so I think seeing it as well as doing just like each little action, whether it be making sure that you're dialing in the water for the day, right? Like, and so like I chug a bunch of my water early on in the day, and I found that works better for me. But that's just an act of like, I do this and then that helps me towards my journey. If I hadn't got my workout in for that day, didn't matter what time it was, I was going to get the workout in for that day, so that it was done, right? Like
Mhm.
otherwise, I felt like crap that I
Mhm.
hadn't gotten it done, right? And there was that constant beating myself up that it kind of led to where the weight was in general, right? That constant like I can't do this. Whereas this time it was like I can do this today, and
Yeah.
doing it that day, right? As opposed to doing, the full, my goal is to lose over 200 pounds. And so, you know, each day is a new day that you have to kind of recommit and kind of get on the bandwagon. But the more you do that, the stronger you get at doing it.
I love that. It's like the celebrating each step, right? There's a step, there was water and you celebrated it. That was one goal and you did it, right? Now I've got my workout. I'm
Right.
going to celebrate that, right? That seems like you can bite that off easier than the whole package all together at
Sure.
once. That's fantastic insight. Now, another question that we have for members is once you start losing, right? You're in your journey, you've lost some weight and you're kind of a new person. Where for the three of you, were you able to recognize that? Like when you looked in the mirror, did you see this person having success in this new lifestyle, or did it take some time? How did you emotionally kind of work through that piece?
I would have an opinion on that. So during the first couple of weeks, especially after phase one and the beginning of phase two, I didn't see much change. I mean, I saw it on the scale, obviously, but I was like, man, I'm not changing. And is that even working? And I don't know. And then after 220, especially, it got so rapidly. And then when I lost 100 pounds, I was the exact opposite. So I was like, who is that guy in the mirror looking at me? I
Mm-hmm.
don't know him. I have never seen him in my whole adult life. It took me quite a while to accept that, really. So I was looking a stranger in the mirror.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I would agree with Werner. It really took some time for me to see the change. It was interesting. More people around me saw the change much quicker than I did. And part of it, I think, is me not recognizing the change. I was losing weight, and in the first month, I lost several pant size and stuff and things of that nature. But when I still looked in the mirror, I still saw the fat guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I'm going to
Mhm.
just say that's what I saw, and that took about that. Even though I saw, and if you go back and look, I saw consistent weight loss progress for almost a year. I didn't plateau for a year, which was crazy. And then I finally hit some plateaus, but it wasn't until about 6 months in that I could visually see that I was different. Even though month over month, I took the weekly pictures, I'd post them. In the end, when I go back and look at it now, I can clearly see the changes now, but for 6 months, I visually I wouldn't let myself see the change.
And so when you're looking in the mirror and you're working so hard, right? That's hard to implement all of these changes to your daily life, and you're doing that. And then you're looking in the mirror and you're not seeing it. How do you talk to yourself? Like, what's that self-talk like to keep yourself going?
For me, it's a couple things. I'm an engineer, so I'm a data nerd. So for me, I was seeing weight loss, and I would measure, so I would measure and see that I was, certain, my waist was going down and I'd lose pants. So I was tracking all that stuff. So for me, that, even though I wasn't, to me, visually, I wasn't seeing it at the time, the data was telling me that I was losing weight. And so for me, that was enough to keep me going.
Yeah, the data is one, and the second for me was the community. So then you have a reference point. When you're insecure, you can talk about it, and then you see other successes, and you go like, "Yeah, keep going. Obviously, it's working. Maybe it will work for you as well." By the way, I now have the exact opposite thing. Now that I was getting used to it. So when I see now old pictures of me, I was like, "Who is that? Was that really me?" It's just so like I collected all my photos from the past recently, and I scrolled through, and I was like, man, who is that? So as hard as it was in the beginning, now it's exactly opposite. So I can't believe I was that.
Wow.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, right? Like your whole body has accepted this new lifestyle completely, right? To where now it's like, this is who I am. This is what I look like when I look in the mirror. Tom, have you experienced any of that? You're still on your journey of weight loss too.
Yeah.
So you're kind of in the middle of this right now.
Yeah, I'd still say it's hard, right? Like it's still hard to kind of accept it kind of in the mirror sometimes, right? Like it's a big difference, and I know that, right? Like I can feel my ribs now, right? Like used to not be able to feel the ribs, and I'm stronger and all of those things to be celebrated. But sometimes it's still a struggle, right? And it was a struggle kind of the whole way through, right? Like I would talk to you on a weekly or every other weekly basis, and you'd say, "I'm proud of you," and I'm like, "Cool."
Yeah, we have a famous line that I'd actually tell Tom, that I'm going to continue being proud of you until you are proud of yourself too. Like I will do it with finding that person, right? Who can say like, I'm here, I'm proud of you. I mean, you were sending pictures and I didn't even recognize you. Like,
right.
Who is that? And so to hear like that you're not seeing it, like it blows me away. It's like all three of you have been saying, right? Everyone else sees it first.
That's right. And so they could, and so that was good, right? But it's a constant mental battle as far as trying to like figure that out and kind of trying to just am I the fat big guy? Is that me or am I the fit father, right? I mean, and ideally it was kind of trying to change that whole personality and everything that kind of goes along with it. A person who follows through, person of action, right? And just I guess you keep doing the steps and then you still feel better about it.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point too, that the transition and the change wasn't just when you say like, okay, I was the fat guy, now I'm the fit father. It's not just appearance, but you just said values that are, who you are, right? You're naming off that you follow through and you do all those things. Like that's a new you. Or maybe it's just honoring who you really were.
Sure.
Right? Like oh, what a beautiful thing to think. Like this is who you really were. And now you get to honor it and really show it. Have, your heart out on your sleeve. That's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
I have a tough question here that's come in from members, and this is one that I know it's difficult to ask. So it's great that we get to do it here in this setting. And it's when you start to lose weight, specifically like a large amount of weight, then some loose skin comes along with it, right? Hand in hand, it's there. Have any of you guys experienced it? And then in addition to that, how are you handling that? And what has been your kind of journey with that?
For me, yeah, I obviously, to the point, I was at 390 and down to, less than 185 at one point. And then back to 220. But the reality of it, yeah, I have excess skin. There's no question about it. I look at it as a battle, at this point, it's a battle scar. I'm proud of it. It's not, if I take off my shirt and people see it, oh well, they can see the weight loss to it. In the end, I've had people. I think I had somebody in one of the Facebook groups, saw and asked me a question. Are you going to have it removed? It doesn't cause me any physical issues, so no, I'm not going to go have it removed. Again, I like it as I allowed myself to get that big, and now this is a reminder not to go back.
Yeah, I have this also a little bit, but it's not too bad actually. But I have this especially in my midsection, and when I had this dream, like when I really got on a 15% body fat, like now it's time for showing my abs, and that never actually happened because I have this extra skin there, and even with 10% body fat, I wouldn't have a six pack, and I looked after it, and most likely I would need surgery, and I don't want to do it. And I think it was Martin Riley actually that also reminded me on the Facebook group. It's a good reminder where I'm coming from. So keep that with pride.
Yeah, it's part of your story, right?
Yeah, I think it's viewed. I think viewing it as a scar or story, is important, because there are some bits of it that I don't like, right? Like when I flex, there's a little part right there, and most of that skin, right? Like I know that I have the muscles there in the arm, but it bothers me that's there sometimes, and so, but it's part of the journey and everything along those lines. And my stomach one, because I'm still losing weight, is not as bad, basically, right? Like I can still kind of, it's not as pronounced. But the arm one every once in a while really bothers me, because I'm trying to flex.
Yeah, trying to show off your gains, right?
That's right.
And so for the three of you, you haven't noticed any like physical like irritation or anything along the lines of the extra skin?
I haven't.
You have?
No.
I mean, that's great.
It's just visually.
I'll tell a story that, I have a little hernia that's been going on for years, right? And they don't need to do anything with it because it's not causing any pain. But when I went to the surgeon about it, I went because I was having a lot of red irritation in my navel, kind of my belly button, right around the time that I was starting the program, and maybe even before I just started. And he was like, "Well, we could take off your belly button and we could just surgically close it up," sort of thing. And I was like, "What? I don't know if I want that. I don't know if that's where I was going." And so I have a lot less skin issues now, being not overweight, being not 400 pounds. There's a lot less fungal stuff going on and things going on, and a lot less sweat in different places that you don't need it. And so it's my skin is better and probably healthier now than it was, much bigger.
That's
and
a
I bet
great
the other
point.
guys would kind of see similar things.
Do you notice then it's easier to be active and maybe be out, like if it's warmer outside for sweating or different things like that? Is it more comfortable just now than it was before when you mentioned the change?
Tons more comfortable being, whether it be in the humidity or whatever. It's a lot less comfortable being in the cold now. I used to love when it was cold, wearing the shorts throughout all the seasons, right? And now I'm cold all the time. My sweatshirt wardrobe is definitely increasing right now. The t-shirts and shorts are not what I'm going for all the time. I'm definitely cold.
I can definitely acknowledge that. When that was the biggest thing I noticed once I lost a lot of the weight, was I would be cold even in the middle of summer in a building that had air conditioning that was, before it wouldn't matter. I was wearing long sleeve shirts in the office for a long time just because it got so cold. So
I have the same thing. So currently it's April, so springtime here, and a little bit rainy, but not too bad at all. I'm freezing all the time. So
Yeah,
I don't know. You see, I mean, every time sweatshirts and the jacket and freezing all the time.
We have short sleeve t-shirts in our store. Maybe we need to get long sleeve shirts for the metabolism
Totally.
changes that are going on.
That's right.
Well, so you guys mentioned for your why and kind of motivation, did all of you have a full support system where everyone was on board? Or did any of you experience maybe some people in your life who weren't exactly supportive of the changes that you were looking to make?
I had a great support system. So my family really supported it from the beginning. And I think that is so critical to have a family that the family's on board. So especially I need to thank my wife, Susan, because she was the support from day one. And this is especially true for dinner, that you don't have to cook different meals, and also for workout time when you're off and cannot take care about the kid or whatever. So it needs really flexibility. And I think with my friends, they accepted it also when I all of a sudden didn't drink beer anymore in the evening and would do some healthy choices at restaurants, and it was not a problem. But what I recognized, what I found funny is that when I met friends that I haven't seen for quite a while, they all go, "Ooh, what happened? Are you sick? Are you okay?" So, so yeah, I mean, it's clear they never have seen me like this in their lives like that. And but I found it interesting. So the first reaction is, "Are you okay? What's happening? Are you sick or what is happening?" No, I'm just getting healthy.
Yeah, now you're actually healthy. You're like, no, I was sick. Like, it is a good thing.
Yeah, I was
this time,
sick. Yeah,
right?
true.
I had a really good support system as well. It's a lot of when you're a bigger person and stuff. A lot of times, the way you show love is with food, right? Around food and around those sort of activities, and so that's how you celebrate everything, whether it be sweets and stuff for the kids, and you stock in the pantry with all the processed stuff. And so I think I was pretty upfront and honest with Laura, my wife, and the kids, and just kind of explained to them kind of where it was going, and what I was planning on doing, why I was doing it. And I think that was really important to get them on board, right? I think as Werner said, the idea of like leaving that alone time, that couple time, for a workout, because you hadn't gotten that workout done that day, whereas like that's the one quiet time during the day that you have. And so for me, that was big. I'm just kind of like getting her support as far as that goes, and it was never guilted. Whereas I think before I would instantly just jump to the conclusion, I can't do that, then I wouldn't be spending time with Laura. I wouldn't be, doing something with the kids, or I wouldn't be getting them what they wanted, at that time or something like that. And so I think getting them on board was huge. And then the hardest thing, whether it be seeing people who you haven't seen in a long time or who are kind of following along with the journey, people are just like, "Oh my gosh, you look great. You're amazing." I've had "Are you sick?" or people who are actually caring. I think they're truly concerned and making sure that you're not sick. They want to celebrate your weight loss and make sure it's not for a bad reason. But I think a lot of times people will say, "How'd you do it?" And I think they're just looking for this magic bullet, right? We were talking about this a couple weeks ago that people are just like, "What'd you do? You just been walking a lot?" I mean, I've been walking, but that's not the only thing we've been doing, right? Like it's a lot of hard work to kind of lose the weight. It actually takes some effort, and I do have the answer if you really want to know, but most people really don't want to know. They just want to know some sort of magic solution that you found. And so I've been getting close to asking that question. Do you really want to know? Like, is it something that you're really interested in, or are you just asking?
Yeah, and that's tough, right? Because they're looking right at you for this, like, did you get surgery? Did you take a pill? What did you do? And your answer is like, well, I took time and effort and dedication and made a commitment. And that, I don't know if that's...
It's more boring, evidently.
Yeah, it's not as exciting, I guess. And then Stephen, how was it for you with support?
So my support system was good. I'm a single father of three girls. Mostly older, so I don't have the issues that Werner has, with a 6 and a 7, 6-year-old. But they were very supportive, you know, and I also cook, and, you know, similar to what Tom said, that was a coping mechanism for years. You know, I would cook junk and I would, you know, but, you know, through the program, one of the things I rediscovered is, you know, my ability to cook healthy. Taking, you know, so I initially started with the, you know, the recipe book, you know, and developed, and my kids liked everything. And, but then you know, I discovered that, hey, I like to cook pan-seared tuna, and, you know, as one of my meals with a protein, usually after a fast. That would be I would do that after a fast. So, you know, so I had that. So my kids were very supportive of it. You know, my mother, you know, one of the things I remember early on before I started, my mother was always on me to lose weight, to lose weight. And then when I started on my journey, big cheerleader, you know, you're doing great, keep it up. You know, and anytime I would see her and stuff like that. And just like, you know, Tom Werner said, there's always those people you're going to come across and say, oh my God, are you sick? You know, it's like, no, I'm healthy. I'm more healthy than I've ever been.
Right.
But to them, that, you know, it's, you know, people who lose weight, you know, especially in a drastic way, oh, you've got to be unhealthy, or something's got to be wrong. And it can't, and that can happen too, but that's not, you know, and that's not the case here, obviously. So.
Yeah, that's
Well, that's probably the same guys that would make a fat guy joke when you were a bigger guy, right? So it's strange sometimes.
Interesting. Well, have you noticed that, is your friend circle still the same, or have you noticed maybe it's changed a little bit on this journey?
It's a mix, I would say. It's changed a little bit, and it's, you know, and then there again, I don't think I've lost any friends through this journey. I think there are some people I may have spent a little less time with, just similar to, because they're good people, but they do some habits that don't support what I'm trying to do. You know, you know, you know, I'll occasionally have a beer, but I don't want to sit there and have 6 beers, you know, or something like that. So in the end, yeah, so it does change.
How did you handle that part of it? Because that's hard, right? Like, your family is there with you, right? They're watching the journey. You're at home, they're seeing it, you're talking with them. But with friends, like, they're kind of on the outside.
Yeah, so they're on the outside. I think in the end, you're still interacting with them. They're still your friends. You know, if they're truly your friends, they're going to be your friends through everything. I think it's just you have a tendency to do maybe a little less with them. You're still interacting with them. Yeah, so you know, to me, you know, I didn't really think about it until you asked the question, but yeah.
I'd say that I would agree that people who I haven't really lost any friends through the journey, but I have been fairly open that that's what I'm doing, right? Like the program that I'm working, to kind of let them know, like, this is going on with me and sort of things like that. The ones who I'm closer with, you know. So I feel like there's been a couple of friends who I've strengthened the friendship with by being able to talk fitness and stuff with, right?
That's
Like
great.
there's a new thing to talk about, right? And if they're cheerleading me on and I'm cheerleading them on, you know. I had a friend from one of my best friend from college, you know, who lives in North Carolina. I don't see him that often, but we talk about 3 or 4 times a year. And I just talked to him last week, and he said that he talked to me in January, and I kind of told him what had been going on with me and everything like that. And he's like, oh, I'm actually a member. Or this time he was like, hey, I'm a member of the Brotherhood. And he's not a big guy. He's super fit. He said, I joined it after hearing about you. I joined the OSM, and now I'm just doing the doing FF30. And I'm like, that's pretty sweet, man. That's pretty awesome. Like, of all the people that I've talked to, you know, there've been plenty of big guys that I've talked to who are not members of the Brotherhood, but man, it was pretty cool.
Would you have imagined, let's talk to Tom December before you started, right? Like a year ago, and would have said, okay, you are going to inspire someone to join a fitness program to be healthy. Like, well, what would that Tom have said?
Like, he said, you got the wrong person. I don't know. Is it 12-ounce curls, 16-ounce curls? I don't know. I don't know which program you're talking about.
Right. Like, I mean, that's going back to like a full transformation of not just in the year, right? Like you're saying, you're making new bonds with friends, like you have something different and a new support. Maybe it's stronger. You're making new friends in
Yeah.
the brotherhood, right? You're
Yeah,
expanding
for sure.
into this new
Yes.
fitness world of friends who you probably
Absolutely.
would have never met, right? Before. You wouldn't have,
Totally.
not just probably wouldn't have met, you wouldn't have met them before. And that's amazing, right? Like
It is
what a
amazing. It's
beautiful
pretty sweet.
journey. When I know for the three of you, you've lost this weight, right? You've come a long ways. And is there a fear at all of what if I go back? Or how do you handle that? Because that kind of mental chatter is a common question that we have from members. Like, how do you get past that? How do you hold that down?
For me, it's not a problem at all because I always understood FFP as a lifestyle change. And my mindset was already from phase one, let's practice that. Let's get it into my head because there's
Mm-hmm.
obviously so much that I need to change. And I always thought like, let's implement this new lifestyle. And pretty much I do the same thing that I did a year ago or whatever. So I'm really not afraid at all. But I mean, what for me was a little bit more difficult after I have lost 100 pounds, what I do now. So what is my new reference point? Because it's not really realistic to maintain 10%, right? And
Yeah.
so I needed to find my reference point where I feel comfortable and which is easy to handle. And I also needed to accept that there is seasonal change, right? I mean, there is the holidays and winter time is maybe not that active as you usually would be. So there's a little bit of change up, a little bit of change down, but that is easy. It was hard for me in the beginning to accept because I was so on numbers and like
Mm-hmm.
nitpicking and here a pound and there a half pound. So I needed to let go after the journey. So like, okay, hey, if you are like at 15%, everything is fine. If you go up to 18, 20 in the wintertime, it's also fine. So needed to relax a little bit afterwards, but I'm not afraid. So I will never ever go back beyond 200 or something because that is my red line. So if I reach that, I will. I don't know what I will do. I will I kill my job and go full phase one.
That's interesting, right? Creating kind of that spot
Yes.
where hey, this is kind of my like what's going on moment, right? But anything,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a range, right? Like you said, that you can be okay with, and different seasons will bring different numbers, and that's okay. But it's knowing you got to come back in. That's
Mhm.
a great
Yeah.
way to look at it.
Yeah, I would agree with Werner. I think, you know, you have to understand that once you get down to the point where you're comfortable, like I said, I didn't have a weight goal I just wanted to be more active and things like that. And so for me, it's great to see that I lost the weight and again, I go up and down. I'm at, and it's funny because for a long time I couldn't lose any weight or gain any weight. It was kind of at that point. At this point where I'm at, I can go up 10 pounds in a week and a half just and when that happens, again, I'm still getting on the scale. I don't get on it every day, because but I'm getting on it frequently enough to say, okay. And then I
Mm-hmm.
just reinitiate, go back to making sure that I'm having my shake for breakfast, that I'm eating a healthy, the manwich at lunch, and then the perfect plate and just a small snack, and things like that. So get the nutrition back in line, and then pick up some extra workouts or things like that. So in the end, it's a lifestyle change. Am I concerned that I could go back there? There's always that chance, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel that I want to focus on that. If as long as I'm monitoring it, I can make corrections.
You know the drill, right? You have the tools, you know how to come back, right? If
Yep.
something starts to slip.
Yeah, I'd say, for me, I feel, you know, because I'm still on where the big goal that I had, right? The big goal that I've had is kind of the 199. So I've been driven towards that number as a number that I'm like, just want to see, right? Like whether it stays there forever or not, like I just want to see the under the two. And so I have that kind of driving me currently, but I've lost a lot of weight before. I lost 100 pounds before when I was, not too like newly married. I think I had lost a similar about that amount of weight, not as much as I've lost now. But I'd also not gotten quite as big. And for that time, I was kind of working Overeaters Anonymous. And so that was the program that I was working in. I think that program works for a lot of people and does some great success. And one of the things that comes from that program is, hey, your disease is still out there getting stronger. Like it's still an option that like that could happen, right? And so what are you doing to get strong to defend against it? And I think each one of these actions, right, whether it be the water, the exercise, the stepping on the scale, right? When you're really big, you don't step on the scale every day. You don't step on the scale every other day just to kind of see where you're at, just to know what's going on. Getting that data, it is really important. When I was at the beginning of this journey, I probably got on the scale maybe once a week, because when I would do it daily, the fluctuations were so big at that weight, it was hard to mentally wrap my mind around it. And now where I'm at now, getting on it every day or every two days, is important for me to make sure I have the data. You're right. Like last week, I didn't feel like I was honed in on my food and doing everything, and I could see it in the scale and didn't love it and things along those lines. So, today, right now, I'm breaking my 3-day fast, after this, and I've kind of used that as a tool another active discipline that I can do, just as a way to kind of recenter myself, think about it, and make sure that I'm doing the right things, kind of get the junk out of the body and everything along those lines. So I think just making those connections and having people that you can still talk to, right? Whether it be the Facebook group, there's something nice about having a Facebook group of people you don't see and you just
Yes.
talk to, because you can really just whine to them and complain to them and just say, hey, this is going on. Whereas you don't want to, for some reason, that guilt, it starts seeping in if you end up talking to people who you do see on a daily basis, or the people who are your why, even though it's important to talk to them, it's hard to sometimes talk to them when you're struggling.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at your why, right? And it's almost like a reflection back to you, saying, like, you have to tell your why, hey, like I'm continuing to slip and I don't have a plan to come back. Like that's impossible, right?
Right.
So having that kind of buffer, like you're mentioning, that brotherhood to say, nope, you're coming back, right? No, we're not slipping.
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
you don't need to go look at your why and tell them that you're, slipping, because we're not going to let that happen. You're in this together.
Yeah, and find your people, right? Find your coach,
Yes.
find your Fit Father coach, find the brotherhood, find somebody on the brotherhood who you connect with, who you think's like they're doing some similar things. Just find people to coach you on and cheer for you, because man, do you need it?
Yes, we can't do it alone. We're not meant to,
No.
right? We're not meant to, as humans, to do this alone, do the journey alone. How boring would that be? Life would be
That's right.
so boring if it was just you by yourself.
Absolutely.
And there's another aspect to look at this question in terms of, are we afraid to get that weight back? I mean, if you have that in your life, I think it feels just so great that I don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, it's not always gradual. So I had a horrible 6 months now, and nothing was perfect. But I mean, there's so much there. And this is maybe also another great aspect of the brotherhood. You can go there and say, like, man, I had 3 ugly months. I gained back some weight. I need some help. And nobody will judge you. Everybody jumps in and they're like, come on, we can do that. And let's support you. And that is so great. So there is no judgment. And you can come back anytime and everybody will help you. So it's really also a backup. So like you have something that covers your back.
Absolutely. Right. I know that sometimes we don't hear from people, right? Like you're like, hey, I wonder where so-and-so is. Like I haven't heard from them in a while. And sometimes they're fine. They're just busy, right? And other times it's such a good reminder, when you reach out, you're like, hey, how are things going? I'm like, right. There are people who don't know me though, right? They know you, but like online, right? It's this community though that cares and doesn't care. Like if something went wrong and you're coming back and working back, right? Hey, let's get you back into it. We care about you enough. We know you need it. Like that support system, like you guys are mentioning, if you don't have it, for people listening, right? If you're like, hey, I don't have that great family at home who could support me, or I don't have that friend group at home that can support me. That's kind of the beautiful thing about the brotherhood is you are going to come into a community that will and wants to, right?
Yeah,
It's not,
It's
they
amazing.
want to.
yeah, it's great. You know, I will say that, you know, last year when I was going through some medical stuff, several people in the brotherhood, you know, Ron Kisman and some other folks that I've done some things with, reached out to me via text, in you know, online messenger, and just checking in on me, saying, hey, we haven't heard from you in a while, you're doing okay. You know, again, that's if you don't have a local support group for you, the brotherhood definitely does it. And even, you know, the sisterhood to some extent, I have some connections on the sisterhood side
Yeah.
you know, and so in the end, again, it's like-minded people supporting each other.
And that's a great aspect that you have mentioned, because I had this really busy 6 months now. It's getting better now, but I was so moved that so much people reached out on a private note, and what's going on? I haven't seen you in the brotherhood for a while. Is everything okay? And I mean, it's one thing to go there and not be judged, but actually, if people reach out to you and say, "Hey, is everything okay?" I mean, what quality of community is that? It's awesome, and I love this, guys. Really, it's amazing.
Absolutely. Well, and on the brotherhood, the talk is always so positive. Like, even if it's something difficult you're going through, right? And that's life, right? Difficult things happen. There's still that positive feeling, right? You can put it up and you can say how you're feeling. How have you guys through your journey kind of kept that positive mentality, right? Because there's plateaus and there's dips, right? There's definitely difficult times. So how have you kept that positive mindset and pushed away that negative talk?
For me, I've actually, anytime I've gotten into a place like that, I'll re-examine my why. For me, that just really try to refocus it. You know, I'm truly a private person, so even sometimes it takes a bit for me to share it with the brotherhood when I'm struggling. Again, I end up doing it because it's I need to, but in the end, I usually start with reinvestigating my why to say, is it right? You know, and sometimes I've made changes to it, but yeah, you're always going to have those those self-doubt times, and then you just, you know, you got to figure, you know, what's your process to get out of it.
Yeah, for me, it was my son, and I really had the feeling I was slowly dying before I started the Fit Father program, and I just wanted to be around for that kid. And then it brings you to every plateau or crisis, because then you need to do that. You need to stand up again, and it is also helpful for like small things, because I had a lot of these reflexes here, especially in the office where we have a lot of sweets. I walk by and I go like, oh, I need to have one of those. And then, oh, what's more important, your son or that thing? Okay.
Yeah.
So
What a
really,
powerful question to ask yourself,
yeah.
right?
So the why is really a power, and we often talk about the why power, and that's pretty true. And then the second thing is really the backup of the brotherhood, because when you have like don't feeling it or have a crisis or whatever, then it's just good to connect again, and everybody will encourage you, help you, support you. So that's such a network that helps you.
Yeah, and I think the why is huge, right? Like, so identifying with that why, and you know, see the why daily, right? You know, the three at home are really the keys, you know, and motivators at all times, and being able to do things with them, you know, whatever it be. You know, I just dragged them all on a vacation around all the parks in California, and you know, doing 25,000 steps a day, and you know, dad's at the head of the pace, going way too fast for everyone else, you know, as opposed to dad can't get on this ride with you, you know. And so I think that's pretty awesome. And then I think the other thing is, you know, so I'll tell Laura, you know, if I'm struggling and things like that, and she'll be like, "Have you talked to Catherine yet? Have you reached out to Kat? You know, you should probably set something up on the calendar. Do you have her on the calendar yet?" And so, and then I will whine to you and say, "This is hard," and you'll be like, "Yep,
It
this is
is
hard."
really hard. Right? I think that question comes in. People are like, "Oh, it's so hard. Like, what do you do to like make it easier?" Right? And it's like, it's hard.
It's just hard.
It's really hard. Yeah. But you know what? Like, you're tougher. Like,
Right.
it's believing that, right? Like, you have the
Totally.
strength to do this.
Mhm.
You just got to believe it. Like,
Yeah. Or have other people believe for you.
have other people believe for you. Yes, absolutely. And how often, so when you talked about you have your why, and so we do a mission statement here at Fit Father. Did you redo your mission statement? Were there changes that you made through, because your journey's been longer for all three of you, right? With 100 pounds. Did you revisit, or did it stay the same from the very beginning?
I revisit. I've rewritten it twice now as a journey. Basically, at the each year that I've been on, I've rewritten it, and it's changed. Some of it stayed the same, some of it's changed because as I've gotten more healthy, I'm able to do more things. One of the things that running is something that's become kind of a passion. So, part of what's in my mission statement is running related. It's, doing those type of things, participating in a Ragnar, things of that nature. So, so in the end, it's changed. That I wouldn't have even thought about writing that when I wrote my first mission statement. It wouldn't have even been yeah.
Can we pause there? Can you explain to if someone's listening right now and they're saying, okay, so Stephen lost, over 100 pounds and he did a Ragnar. What's a Ragnar? Tell them what you accomplished, what you've done.
So Ragnar is I got roped into it. I volunteered to do it.
Roped in is the right term.
Yeah, roped
that
in
was
is
right.
2 years ago. They went as the world started to slowly open up. They the Fit Father, Fit Mother Project put together a team. It was Reach the Beach, which is run in New Hampshire, so it's local. It made it even better. And I just started running, and they were looking for runners, and trust me, I was I was breaking no records in running or anything, but it was something I discovered I loved. Well, then the second benefit to this, it's a group of 12 people. And basically it builds, so you're able to, it's 12 people that are also fit mothers, fit fathers, at least 90% of them are, and you really get to enjoy meeting these people. So in the end, that's where I met Amy Spatch and Lee Spatch, in the end, when in Glenn Page, and this year I met Anthony De La Guardia and all these other folks, and Ron Kussman. And I just, I could go on and on. It was great just to get together and meet these people and then participate in an event where basically you have two vans, you split in half, 6 people in one van, 6 people in the other, and you race over 200 plus miles over about 2 days. And it's a relay. So you start and you're living in a van, so if you ever had a desire to live in a van, come on down. We're
Yes.
actually still looking for some folks. So
yes, it's that part of the community now that
Correct.
you have this new healthy lifestyle and you get to explore these new activities and fun events that you may not have ever been able to do before, right?
Yeah, no, and that's really it. And that's where I got introduced to some of the Fit Mothers. And again, they're an awesome group. And again, it's, that's great.
They're wonderful. And the Ragnars are so great. And it's just one of the amazing adventures that the three of you have been able to do. I mean, Werner, you are out there swimming with your son again.
Yeah, I never did before. So I told in my podcast, Dr. Anthony, that because I was really too embarrassed in my old life, I didn't want to take the shirt off. And now swimming was not for me. And now we do it all the time. And he learned swimming because of Dr. Anthony pretty much, and you guys. And I mean, how cool is that? And I think I would have missed this if I would have continued with my weight. Most likely, I wouldn't have learned him that. And now we do all kinds of stuff. Now we are so active, hiking. And the last year he was with me on it's just rather big mountain for a 6-year-old. It was 7,800 feet, and I was so proud of him, and he was also so proud of him. So. I mean, we do such a lot of stuff, and it's totally different. Couldn't have done it before, no chance. So it's really improving my life in so many areas.
And it's breaking those cycles too, right? Your children, you love them dearly. And when you are limited in abilities, to be able to do these activities, it's not because you don't love them. Like, you love them, you just couldn't, right? It's not that you didn't want to go swimming with your son or go hiking or go on, Tom, your son is enjoying running. It's not that you don't want to do those things. It's that you couldn't. And so now it's kind of showing your children, teaching them early on that enjoyment of an activity so that they can have this healthy lifestyle. Like, it's great that we get to be, I have 2 daughters too. So I'm the same way. I'm glad that I'm healthy and I want to be here and spend as much time with them as I can. But the piece that really, for me, that why is I want them to grow up where this is normal, right? Eating a healthy plate for dinner, that perfect plate meal, and going out and being active and seeing, going on runs, like your events with your friends are going on, these adventures and these runs are going hiking. I want them to just think that's just what life is. That's what, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's such
totally.
a
Exactly.
Get outside and see it.
Yeah. So did the 3 of you grow up in families where that was the norm, like being active was part of the norm, or and then it changed for you later, or kind of what was your path and journey with that aspect?
It's a good question. I think for me, it was not so much an active family, but I was later on pretty active in my 20s and 30s, also in my 40s, especially in the mountains here. But I was still obese, and it was hard for me, and I was sweating all the time, and man, everything hurt, and it was so not enjoyable, and that's why I more and more wouldn't do that stuff. And now we do all the time as a family for us. So we Sundays we go out when it's nice weather. We go on mountains. We just hike or do whatever. So it's really that changed dramatically. But I haven't had that as when I was growing up.
Yeah, when I was growing up, again, through high school, specifically played lots of sports, hockey, football, and some other activities, and then, but that's also the time when you come home from school, cable wasn't around, there wasn't anything, so you go outside and play with your friends, and so there was that activity always going on. I'm dating myself by saying that, playing games like kick the can and things of that nature. But those were the types of activities that happened. And then I joined the Army and spent time in the Army for a while, so I remained active through that. So
I don't think we were a big hiking family or a big true like all do sports together sort of family, right? Like I did the sports in school and stuff like that, but was no great athlete, and so eventually that starts to fade. As you're not a great athlete, those opportunities start to fade as that opportunity, and then the food was great, but it was an act of convenience as well, right? In addition of love, but it's more processed and things along those lines, and the education's gotten so much better, right? The simplification around our food plan is so much better. And as you said, getting the kids to love their veggies and figuring out which ones work for them and which foods work for them, so they can figure that out for themselves, and that's what they actually want. And getting them to desire that is pretty awesome.
It is.
Yeah, and you're also leading by example. So because they see you doing things, and it's for me clear that I go out for work in the morning, we eat good stuff, we work out. Now my wife also joined the Fit Mother program, so my son sees it all the time that people are working out and eating healthy and taking care of their body and health. So how should that go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong with that? Like, really,
Right.
right? Absolutely. Well, this has been amazing to talk with the 3 of you. And before we close out, I just would like to give you each a chance to say, like, if you could give some advice to a member or a potential member who's listening right now, who maybe is sitting where you were a year, 2 years ago, and they're nervous to get started and they're doubting themselves, what would you like to share with them? What would you want to tell them? And I'll start with Tom.
First off, I believe in you. If you don't believe in yourself, I can pass that on now, right? Like I've seen what steps need to happen, and I'd be willing to work alongside you, and talk to you if you had any questions. But you just have to start doing the things, right? You have to start, whether it be the water, the mission statement, the food, all of those things, but you're just doing it for that day, right? Like each day you just stack them up. Each time you're brick by brick, you're building this new you. And so I think that not getting overwhelmed and thinking to yourself, I need to lose 200 pounds, I need to lose, I need to do it by this certain date. There is no certain date. It wasn't a certain amount of time that it took you to get to this size. It took years to generally get as big as we got. And so I think that that knowing that you're just doing it for that day, and then if you weigh yourself weekly, you're going to see some results immediately because you're bigger. And so it's pretty great. The weight loss at the beginning is great. I just charted it out, and my first 8 months of this program were 20, 20, 10, 15, double digit weight loss for a good portion of it. Now it's somewhere in that 5 to 9 pound range, each month. But those first months, man, they feel pretty great as far as the numbers you start putting up, at least, right? Steve with his 30 pounds that first month, that's a big motivator.
Right.
What I would, again, the first thing I would tell anybody who's considering this, I did it. In the end, Tom did it, Mula did it. It's doable. There's nothing that you can't do. And I'm a firm believer, start, just get going, like Tom said, but it's not gonna start itself. You have to start it. You have to work at it. It's not easy. It's going to be a challenge, but the benefits that you're going to get in the end are just, you're not even going to, at the start, you don't even realize the benefits you're going to get until you're well into the journey. So don't be afraid to start and you fail. Okay. Start again. In the end, you learn a lot when something goes wrong too, so in the end, you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and okay, what wasn't right, and start again.
Absolutely. I think we all learn almost more, right? You're able to reflect and say, okay, I'm going to do better this time. And that's great.
Just sign up and jump in, join as soon as you can, the brotherhood, get connected with other guys, and just do it, because you wouldn't believe how great life is on the other side. So, I often tell people, I literally, that's no bragging or whatever, I feel way better than I did in my 30s, way better. So, and I'm 55, so that's most likely because I had bad nutrition back then, and I was not very active. But it is so worth doing this journey, and just do it. And as soon as you can, join the Fit Father for Life thing, because if there's a promotion or whatever, because it is a lifestyle. It's long term, and if you have that community and all the tools that you need, it's such a game changer. So I would highly recommend it. And if you ever have trouble, give Kat a call. She will solve that.
I'm here. I will try my best.
All the support staff, and actually thank you to Kat and the whole staff, from Craig, to Ben, to Kat. I've interacted with all of you. You're all aces in my book.
Absolutely.
The best, and it's refundable, right? Like if this isn't something for you, right? Mentally, right? You're like, oh, I'm spending that much money, but you're not spending that much money. You spend a lot more on crap food and other things, that eventually the only thing that they don't tell you about is that you will have to invest in more clothes.
Yes, you will have to go shopping.
A lot more clothes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love shopping. So I always like to get excited when I hear, like, when members are like, oh, I have to go shopping. I'm like, what'd you get? What'd you find? Well, thank you so much for the three of you for spending time with us. If anyone has any additional questions that they would like to ask, you can email in to support@fitfatherproject.com, and we will make sure that your questions are given and passed along to these amazing members so that you can connect with them, and we will see everyone in the Brotherhood.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.